a song for you.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin. We are in season 27. This is episode 3, The Rider, the third song off Deep Purple's newest album, Splat. Very excited to get into this one. Actually, I'm really excited to get into all these tracks because, as I've said on the other episodes, I've only listened to the album twice, holding off any further listens until I get through these reviews, and I've been really enjoying them so far. As I recall, I enjoyed this song as I enjoyed all the songs. I don't think there was any song that made me frown or have any kind of adverse reaction for any reason. There was just not much that initially struck me as other songs have in the past upon first hearing. Not necessarily a bad thing for me. Sometimes it just takes me a minute. And maybe it's just as I'm getting older, it takes me a little bit longer to kind of warm up to songs. Maybe I'm not really as focused as I'd like to think I am when I'm just listening to them and not doing anything else. Maybe my brain does zone out a little bit now and then. Anything's possible. All I know is I'm excited to get into this song. So let's do it on a Thursday. Here it is, Deep Purple, The Rider. So a very intriguing opening. It's got an interesting progression to it. Very percussive organ. If you think back to songs like Child in Time, where you're getting that percussive organ off the beginning, as opposed to the Hammond sound that doesn't quite have the same strike. This is more like the strike of a piano where you're attacking and hitting that note really hard, and it has a shorter cutoff. Really like this sound. I think it works great. I love the progression he's playing. I'm intrigued and I want to know where the song is going.
I live a life of outrageous extravagance. From way up here, show my talent and elegance. I have some weird peccadillos, stick 'em on the rider. Whoa, whoa, whoa. When I arrive, I want some heel clickers. After my donut, a couple of lip lickers. Moisturize them both, then slap 'em on the rider.
Well, I have no idea where the song is going lyrically, but I will say that I love the sound of it. It has a great feel where we start, the background music, the way it drops down. I love the sound of the vocal on this. Again, it's this kind of Ian Gillan is just some of my favorite stuff. He's a great storyteller. Definitely puts some images in your head along the way, which is always fun. Musically, it's just got a good groove to it. I really like to feel like the mood. And you guys know, if you've been listening to me for a while, or if you listen to the Haskincast podcast, one thing that you'll know about me is I do love a song with a real mood to it. Something that takes me out of just the norm and makes me feel like I'm in a slightly different world, or maybe there's just an atmospheric change that came in all of a sudden. Something that kind of just takes me out of the normal day-to-day feeling. This is giving me that right off the bat. I'm getting gray skies, and not just because it's storming outside. I mean, even when I listened to this yesterday, while it was perfectly bright and clear skies out, felt very much the same way right off the bat, and I'm a big fan of that. We start with a great mood from Dawn. I mean, it's intriguing, and then you don't know where it's going to go, and then the band kicks in, and I at least just feel transported to a different world, and I love that.
Whoa, whoa, it's me. I'll let you know when I'm ready to sing. I can't exist, can't do my thing without a brace of super hot psychologist. Cover my back with a sincere apologist. And where's the thumb? I know I wrote it in the rider.
Okay, so here we go. Now, here in the second verse, I am getting a little more Roger Glover being the Roger Glover that we're used to, playing around on the neck a little bit more. And I'm finding that intriguing, but not distracting from the vocals. I did forget to mention on the first verse, we also do have a dual layer vocal here. And I love that he's not trying to exactly match himself. It feels just very natural. Just I'm going to sing it one way and then I'm going to sing it another way. And it's either going to work or it's not. It just feels very natural and spontaneous. I've said so many times Ian has such a great voice that he doesn't need effects. He doesn't need to double himself. But when he does it, there are times on the individual song where it works very well. And then I feel on the album as a whole, it's just like, okay, for every song it worked, but just for the overall album, we don't need that much of it. Like, I'd rather just hear you because you have such a great voice and you're such a great vocalist that I don't want that buried in effects. I would say 3 songs in, first time we're hearing it, and it sounds really good for this song. I love the feel of it. It really enhances that mood I was talking about earlier. So on this song, again, as an individual song, don't mind it. We'll see how it goes through the rest of the album, see how much we actually get of this versus just his straight voice with a little delay and reverb.
Whoa, it's me. You'll never know when I'm ready to sing. I can't exist. Can't do my thing.
Well, if anything, I would say this doesn't necessarily remind me of the 70s. I would say it really kind of reminds me back to like Perpendicular. That little passage there has that feel to it. And then the way that they come out of it before they go into whatever we're about to transition into here just kind of harkens back to those days for me, which I'm not complaining about at all. I love that album. I love that time. And yeah, for some reason, it's just striking me more as a throwback to Perpendicular. But I really like this part again. Vocals are fantastic. The band is just so solid backing him. But I like that we're starting to get a little bit more of that layering again, just slowly peppered in through the verses. That feels a little more Deep Purple to me, and I'm just smiling the whole way through the song.
Keep me waiting while I prefer to stay. Catch a live performance just for me, Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, that's a really nice vocal part. Again, coming back in and just the layering, the sound of it. It's just absolutely beautiful. That kind of stuff I don't mind. I'm not talking about, if you're layering tracks for a chorus or, for a certain effect. I'm talking about, earlier when you double the vocal with an unnecessary tone or when it has an effect that it just, doesn't need to have for the sake of effect. On the rare occasion, it's fine. I don't mind it. Also, we're back to the kind of build again. I'll be curious to see how much they do of that on this album. I have criticized them before for doing that too many times on one album. These guys are so creative. It's unnecessary to go back to that well more than once or twice per album, in my opinion. That's one thing I really focus on, is trying not to repeat the same tricks, too many times on one album, because it just tends to sound formulaic after a while. So I'm hoping there's not too much of that on here. We will find out. We have plenty of songs to go. You never know what's ahead. But I really do like this passage, and I'm curious to see what this solo goes into here. What a great solo. I mean, I really feel like that just came from the heart. And that is the best kind of playing to me. When I am working on a piece of music, I typically leave a blank section for the solo, and I'll come back and record that after I'm done with the rest of the song for the most part. Sometimes I've got an idea and I just go ahead and lay it down in line of recording the song. And then that's typically what stays. I don't usually go back and overdub it if it feels good. I honestly feel like, and I have no idea what the actual situation here was, but I feel like Simon just walked in, was listening to the song, played that, and was like, "That's good." It may not have been the case; it may have been multiple takes, but that just felt so natural and in touch with the song to me that it's hard for me to imagine any other outcome. Hopefully, my filters will be taking out these fireworks. If not, what you're hearing in the background is fireworks. As it is the 4th of July as I'm recording this. So anyway, get back to the song, Scott.
Woe is me. I'll let you know when I'm ready to sing. I can't exist. Can't do my thing.
You know, I really feel like they could end the song here if they wanted to. I don't want them to, but I feel like they could. And I like that they're not just resting on this, that they're actually going to go into another part. They're going to keep the song going. This one is actually just under 4 minutes. Interestingly, just taking a quick look at the times, I'll have to double check and make sure I didn't miss anything, but I don't think there's any songs that quite reach 5 minutes. There's one slightly under 5, and I believe that's the longest track on the album, which is interesting. That's, normally you get one that's a good 6-7 minutes, but no, not here. So anyway, I love that motion of this song. I love, again, that they're just so masterful at being smooth in the transitions and just taking us on a journey from one thing to another without really letting us stop long enough to look around. We just keep going and the scenery keeps changing. And I'm a big fan of this kind of songwriting and performance.
Don't call me precious. Priceless is just fine. I'm worth even more in this here swollen head of mine. Before I
Man, there's some really cool stuff going on in this transition. I like that we're getting a moment to attach the opening of the song somewhere inside the song, because I feel like that's forgotten. A lot of times there'll be a throwback to that somewhere. This one's, it's obvious, but you kind of have forgotten about the intro by this point because nothing, until you get to almost 3.5 minutes in, has tied you back to the way the song opened. That's pretty interesting. Sometimes they do it at the very end too. So there's that. But I like this. I like the sort of, what is it? Is it Foxy Lady by Jimi Hendrix, where he does that finger tapping thing at the beginning that Simon's playing going into this next verse. We also get what sounds in the background like Ian Pace is hitting the china a little bit gently, but a lot to give it sort of a shimmery sound. There's just so much going on behind this. I wish I could hear Roger a little bit more as usual, but I feel like he's just playing a lot lower frequencies than normal. So we'll see where we're at when we go into this last verse here.
before I dance, get my polymecologist. I got bumps now with my phrenologist. I'm off to the funny farm. It's all there in the rider.
Well, that was interesting for an ending. I forgot that went that way. Yeah, it's interesting because you also get Ian Pace is the one that then comes up in the last verse here and starts adding some dynamics to it to keep it changing as they typically do. So I like that choice. It wasn't distracting really from the vocals, and drums can do that sometimes because they're a little bit brighter in the mix. They're a little bit more noticeable. Sometimes using the drums to do that can be a little tricky because it'll take away from your storyteller, and you definitely want to carve out room for the storyteller. But I think it works here. If it were any louder, I would probably not like it. I think it's pretty good where it's at volume-wise. Yeah, a lot of fun. Just kind of another unexpected ending. And overall, great song. Definitely great song. It's got some really good parts, a good feel to it. I love the vocals. I love that last section here going into this final verse. Ending is a little abrupt for me, but that's okay. It's just going to keep me on my toes for a while, which is never a bad thing. Overall, 3 songs in, 3 thumbs up for sure. It's one for me that I definitely could just lock onto that groove during the verse, especially. And then the solo is great. I can really get behind that. Nothing too flashy, nothing that, makes me want to think about it too hard. I can just feel it. And that's what I love is music that just makes me feel something. Sometimes I like music I have to think about. If I think about listening to like Chick Corea and the Electric Band, I'm breaking down what is Dave Weckl doing? What is John Patitucci doing? What is Chick playing underneath of all this? Who's doing what? When did they get a change? How did they decide these transitions? It's just constant intellectual work. With Deep Purple, I find I can do it both ways, especially with a song like this. When I'm doing the critical reviews, yes, that's exactly what I'm focused on is all the, how did they come up with this? Why did they do this? This is an interesting thing I just heard. That is the focus of a critical review. But when I go back and listen to this song later and just listen to it for the pure joy of music, I'm going to lock onto the atmosphere. I'm going to lock onto this wonderful groove during the verse. I'm going to enjoy that keyboard intro and the reprise later on. It's just going to make me smile. And that's, to me, what I mostly go for with music is not, I like music I have to think about sometimes. I love music I want to learn to play. So then breaking down the dynamics of it is a little bit different because I'm not trying to intellectualize it. I'm just trying to learn it. And there's some intellectualization you have to do to get to learn it, but that's not my focus. It's really just the learning it or understanding it. And then I can also just turn it on and enjoy it. And every once in a while, I'm sure I'll hear something and go, oh, what was that? And I'll go back and listen and try and figure it out. But this is a song, like so far, all 3 of these songs I can just put on and enjoy and smile and be very happy that they wrote and released this album. So thank you, Deep Purple, for doing that. So that will wrap it up for today's episode. A little bit shorter of an episode today, but we will be back tomorrow for our Friday episode as we continue our journey through Splat. And to get to the one song that really did stand out to me more than the others, and that is The Lunatic. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode and thanks for listening.